No, when you are the first one to speak to students because I'm in Canada who has to go. Sorry? No, no, he has already spoken to the students.
Okay, before the ceremony officially begins, we need to just give you some housekeeping information. In case of fire, you need to move to the door at the back and go out the way that you came into the courtyard. Toilets are also through that door, and then you will see a sign right in front of you with directions as to where to go to if you need to go to the bathroom. Can I ask you to please make sure that you switch off all volume from your telephones? We know you want to keep your telephones for taking photos, but the sound must be switched off. That includes students. We have a personal photographer for each of you. So Monique, where are you, Monique? Oh, yeah. Monique will be taking photos of you all as you're being addressed. You need to move to the front here. Your supervisors will stand up and they will address you, so you need to stand facing your supervisor. Supervisors, it may mean that you have to swap around a little bit to make sure that you're in the photos. There is a live stream taking place, so please make sure that you keep everything nice and not do anything strange. After the ceremony is finished, we will then do the traditional signing of the Zweitkammer. So students, you will then be graduates by that time. You have the right to sign on the Zweitkammer, and we'll tell you a little bit about that afterwards. So, without further ado, Christelle, please take the floor.
I officially open this ceremony with my apologies for the delay, first of all. This is due to the fact that there was a previous graduation ceremony and they simply ran out. And so we ask for your understanding why it was a little bit of hectic at the moment. But let's go on with the regular program, and let me first of all say good afternoon to all of you. The great day has arrived, and we are here to celebrate the graduation ceremony of the Leiden Advanced Study Program in European and International Business Law, IEBL. I am Christa Tobler, the Academic Director of the program, and it's my pleasure to welcome, first of all, our students, whether in this room or following the ceremony online. Second, family, friends of our students, and also teachers, staff, supervisors of the program. Obviously, it's you, the students, who are the most important persons today. We are celebrating your graduation. I must say that in the present academic year, reaching the point where all of you can graduate today has been considerably more difficult than in previous years. As some of you painfully know, the last retakes and thesis grades were finalized only very, very recently, with the somewhat unfortunate result also that the entire class got certain grades, notably the thesis grades, quite late. Now that we have reached graduation, we do hope that you will forgive this delay and from that moment on focus on the joy of graduation. At a later point in this ceremony, I will use an official formula in order to legally confer on you the degree that you have earned through all your very hard work. At that moment, you will change from students to graduates. And from that moment on, you may add a new academic title to your name. But before that, we have other parts in our program, such as addressing each of you very, very briefly in relation to your final thesis. We will do that after my following remarks, which are intended to reflect briefly on the foundational theme of our study program. You will remember how at the beginning of the year I explained to you the philosophy behind the EIBL program, namely that for business lawyers with an international angle to their work, it is crucial to understand that we live in a world of multi-level jurisdictions. Businesses are confronted with regulations on different levels that may interact with each other or exist side by side. Global rules, regional rules, and national rules. Being in Europe, we put in our program a particular emphasis on the regional economic law of the European Union. a system that continues to serve as a model for economic integration elsewhere in the world. For example, in the East African community, which our colleague Professor Armin Kaivas is studying from a comparative perspective, and which also has found a reflection in some of your final theses. We believe that understanding EU law in its global and national context enables one to draw comparisons and better understand other systems. It is therefore worth studying it, even if you come from an entirely different part of the world, as many of you do. A system that from the beginning used economic integration in order to achieve higher aims: peace, stability, the welfare of the people. And that is based on fundamental values that are meant to make this possible, including notably democracy, the rule of law, and respect for human rights. I will return to this at the very end of my speech. Over time, EU law has become a particularly influential legal system beyond its geographical borders. Unsurprisingly, the term Brussels effect also appears in this year's EIBL thesis work. Professor Anu Bradford, a Finnish-American professor at Columbia Law School, coined it. She has called the EU a regulatory superpower, and she has used as a subtitle for one of her books this: How the European Union Rules the World. Professor Bradford has defined the Brussels effects as the unilateral ability to regulate the global marketplace, including companies outside the EU, an element that's interesting in our program, obviously. According to Bradford, such power presupposes three elements, namely a large market, regular capacity, and the political will to deploy that capacity. And in Bradford's argument, at the moment, at this point in time, it is actually only the EU, the only power that meets those conditions. She thinks that it will take quite a bit of time to see a Beijing or New Delhi effect come into being. She doesn't rule it out. One never knows. Now, practice shows that companies outside the EU that wish to trade with or within the EU will usually opt for compliance with EU law in order to avoid the hassle and costs of having to follow different regulatory systems at the same time. By way of illustration, let me mention a very practical example of new EU legislation that has become effective just a few weeks ago, at the beginning of July, namely Directive 2019/904 on the reduction of the impact of certain plastic products on the environment. As a consequence of this directive, single-use plastic caps on drinks bottles and Tetra Paks up to 3 liters must now stay attached even after being unscrewed. Let me show you. This is what we used to have. You take off the cap, and there it is. This is what we now have. You unscrew the cap, and it will still be attached. See that? The aim of the new rule is to address the excess of plastic pollution that takes over beaches and oceans in the EU. Detached caps often do not make it into recycling and then pollute the environment. So the EU has introduced specific product design requirements intended to help with the problem. Now, this is clearly regional legislation of the EU and for the EU's own internal market. But what about its place and effect in a larger context? On the global level, we do not have any specific rules on bottle caps, WTO law, for example. I assume that it can be argued that the new rules are actually in line with WTO law, given their aim of environmental protection. On the national level, it is, first of all, the member states of the EU who are the adversaries of the directives. And companies established in the EU will have to follow the national implementing rules, But interestingly, and here we come to the Brussels effect, even companies outside the EU will be affected, namely those that deal in the EU. Now, some of them clearly did not like the plans for the new legislation when they were made known a few years ago. In 2018, Coca-Cola, Danone, Nestle, and PepsiCo rather wanted to improve existing recycling systems than invest in new bottle designs. And in order to prevent new law, they urged EU environmental ministers to hold off backing the Commission's proposal and rather follow the ideas of the companies. However, when their lobbying efforts did not succeed and the legislation was passed, they began to sing a very different tune and make positive statements about the new bottle caps. In a testimony to the Brussels effect, a news site from my country of origin, Switzerland, wrote just very recently the following: "Plastic bottles in the EU now must have caps that remain attached once unscrewed. Although this regulation does not apply in Switzerland, Swiss companies must still adapt, entailing additional work." Take the Swiss company Gorvalia, one of the biggest manufacturers of plastic closures with a market participation of 20%. The new directive has compelled it to overhaul its whole production within just a few years. They have invested 10 million Swiss francs in developing the new bottles. They too did not like it in the first place, but now they have a very colorful blog post on their website explaining us all the benefits of these new bottle caps and the protection of the environment. So all in all, the new law on the attached bottle caps is a very practical and telling example of the role of the EU as an influential regulatory power beyond its borders, also in the business context. Critiques of the Brussels effect have argued that the EU's far-reaching regulation in various fields amounts to regulatory imperialism. However, others have called such regulation benign, where it serves legitimate aims such as environmental protection. Now, I leave it to you to consider these issues further. Here at Leiden, we hope and trust that we were able to equip you with knowledge that will be useful in your future professional life, wherever it will take you. But not only with knowledge, but also with the tools needed for critical thinking and for lifelong learning, something that all of you will know in a world where the rules keep evolving constantly on all levels. But there is more. Sadly, we live in a world that is torn by conflicts and faced by many challenges. We hope that through your studies with us, you have understood the value of an efficient and peaceful mechanisms for the settlement of disputes. We hope you have understood more generally that a peaceful, well-organized, stable and honest environment that values and respects democracy and fundamental rights, and that is based on the rule of law, is the best recipe for businesses as well as for the welfare of the people. We trust that you will leave Leiden not only with legal knowledge and insight, but also with new friends. When pandemics, conflicts, inflation, climate change undermine certainties, when we face challenges on a personal level, we need resilience. Psychological research conducted at this very university underlines the importance of friendship in that context. Studying abroad in a different legal and cultural environment is a challenge. I'm sure that all of you have felt it in one way or another, and that you were then glad to have colleagues and friends to turn to. And in some cases, I even heard boyfriends have been found through the study in this country. We will enter your names in our list of former students, which we will share with you, and we hope that you will stay in touch with our very international and by now quite large EIBL family. Leiden University has always been international from its very beginning. You, our present students, have come to us from different parts of our world, representing different cultures, different legal systems, different ways of thinking and of reasoning. You have brought to Leiden and to us a richness which we deeply appreciate. Today, we want to congratulate you on making it through the program to the point of graduation. We, the staff and professors of our advanced program, are very happy to see you graduate today. And our only regret is that not all of you can be here present in person, in the ideal case because people have already found jobs, taking them back to some other country. We want to think also of those who are absent and include them in our congratulations and good wishes. Now, with respect to the next step in our ceremony, let me explain that it is the Leiden tradition that the supervisor of the final thesis addresses the student very briefly and says a few words about the student's work on this final assignment in our program. For those supervisors who are not able to be here physically, their speeches will be read by a colleague. You see, therefore, different people sitting here, and the other ones who are here will address you directly. So this brings us to the part in our program which is the presentation of the diplomas, always preceded by a very brief speech. Because of the delay that we have experienced, the first group of students, namely those of Professor Armin Kuijvers, for so far as they were present before we began, have already been briefly addressed by him. The unfortunate situation is that he has to be present at a PhD defense because he's part of the committee, and if we had started on time, he could have given his speeches now here, but in this way he cannot. Again, he apologizes, and so do we, for this unfortunate circumstance. We therefore turn to the following two students whom we ask to come forward. We ask you in groups to come forward, to stand here, and then you will be individually addressed. So the first two are those who have been supervised in their thesis work by Professor Anna Ramalho, and these are Deepika Mahesh and Tanvi Rai. Could we ask the two of you to come forward? We will begin with Deepika, and it is Veronica who will read the speeches. Do you want to take the picture together of them? Yeah, okay. Okay, we could.
First of all, I would like to extend the apologies from Professor Anna Ramalho that she could not be here. She's very sorry, and I will read what she has sent me. Good afternoon, esteemed faculty, staff, students, parents, and friends. Today we gather to celebrate the achievements of Deepika, who has successfully completed her degree and who wrote a thesis titled Balancing Freedoms, a Legal Examination of AI-Based Content Filtering and Fundamental Rights within the EU Intellectual Property Law Framework. Her passion for intellectual property law was evident in her dedication to drafting and legal research. In her thesis, she tackled a pressing and timely issue: the balance between technological advancements and fundamental rights in the context of AI-based content filtering. Her research has provided interesting insights into the potential implications of these technologies on intellectual property law. As you embark on your next chapter of your life, I'm confident that you will continue to make significant contributions to the legal profession, and I hope that your passion for intellectual property law will continue for the years to come. Congratulations, it was a pleasure to have been part of your academic journey. May your future be filled with success and happiness.
Thank you very much. Then Tanvi, please.
Once again, apologies on behalf of Professor Ramalho. We are here today celebrating the academic pursuits of Tanvi, whose thesis I supervised. Her thesis, titled A Copyright Conundrum, Unraveling the Copyrightability and Ownership of Prompts Fed into the Outputs Created by Generative AI. Everyone is talking about generative AI, and Tanvi had the daunting task of researching and writing about a moving target. She took on this challenge, no doubt, carrying the weight of coming from a lineage of jurists, doctors, and academics. In her thesis, she tackled complex and timely issues such as the legal challenges posed by AI technologies, including questions about the ownership of prompts fed into AI systems, and the copyright status of the outputs they generate. By examining the ways in which these technologies can be used to generate new forms of content, Tanvi has highlighted both the opportunities and the challenges of these technologies present for our artists, writers, and other creators. Beyond her academic pursuits, Tanvi has also shown a strong commitment to giving back to the community through her volunteer work, which is a testament to her desire to make a positive impact on the world. Congratulations on graduating from this program, Tanvi, and good luck for the continuation of your legal journey. I wish you lots of success and happiness.
In the meantime, I'm asking the group who were supervised by Armin Kuijvers to come forward to receive your diplomas. These would be Veronica, Beatrice, Irem, and Sarah. If you could come up, please. So time for the picture in getting the diploma. Sheena will hand over the diploma, and then please pose for your picture. Veronica, yeah, one by one, of course. Yes. And we have two of them who graduated cum laude. That is Beatrice and Irem. Congratulations. Please come one by one forward, and the other one step a little bit aside so that you can have individual pictures taken with your and let's begin with that we have the right order, because otherwise our photographer doesn't know who is who. Okay, go ahead. Veronica is first. Sorry. Okay, Veronica comes first. Okay, Veronica, then you can step back. Then we have Beatrice. There you go. Do you have her? No, there's no speech for this group. Very good, Irem. And Sarah. Congratulations to all of you. Okay. The next person I'm asking to come up, actually who will not come up because he's online, is Darli Martini, and he will be addressed by his supervisor, Ben van Rompuy, Dr. Ben van Rompuy.
I don't know where to look, actually.
Probably in this direction.
Oh, there.
Oh, here is the camera.
There you are. Dear Darli, in December you approached me with an intriguing thesis idea. You wanted to examine the potential anti-competitive effects of the acquisition of non-controlling minority stakes. That topic has gained some attention in recent years, but there's still no adequate tool at the EU level to effectively address these concerns. Now, that idea was excellent. Your thesis proposal, not so much. But you reassured me not to worry, insisting that it did not reflect your standards. You just had been busy. But then you would tell me the same thing when I received the first chapter or a revision of that chapter. Well, it turned out these were just nonchalant opening moves. All it took was a little push and an impending deadline to really get things moving. And yes, you delivered, and I have to underscore, a very good thesis. You identified in depth the potential risks surrounding minority acquisitions, and you took valuable lessons from the mechanisms that exist in UK and Germany to propose similar changes to the EU merger control regime. My warmest congratulations with this result and with graduating today. I wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
And also from our side. Present is Louis Zheng. Can I ask you to come up? Your work has also been supervised by Dr. Van Rompuy.
Dear Louis.
And the camera, I'm told, is over there. You still have to look a little bit at this for future.
Complicated.
Yeah.
Dear Louis, when we first met to discuss your thesis proposal, I very much remember you asked me whether you could record our conversation because you didn't want to miss anything important. I said no. But I did my utmost best to make myself understandable. I spoke slowly, writing things down, repeating myself, etc. The result was it was an unusually long first meeting, and at the end you thanked me and you said, "I will stop the recording now." So that was why you were not taking any notes. No. It turned out to be you were just very nervous, and we didn't need any recordings in subsequent meetings. It was a true pleasure, Louis, to see you grow more confident and persuasive in your research and writing. Most discussions and growing body of literature on EU competition law and sustainability primarily focus on antitrust. You focused on the role of sustainability considerations in EU merger control. That was both relevant and very timely. Concentrations may sometimes chill green innovation. They may also be necessary means to reach sustainability benefits. And finally, there are green remedies to consider. The thesis was well researched, and with great enthusiasm, you convincingly argued that the European Commission can and should be more ambitious in its approach. Dear Louis, you should be very proud about what you achieved. My warmest congratulations, and please stay in touch. I will stop the recording.
She's coming. Congratulations again. The next group of students was supervised by Dr. Pavlos Mazouros, who sends his apologies for not being here, and I'm asking to come forward Emre, Oya, Yujing, and Zhao. Please. And I will have the pleasure of reading the speeches for Dr. Mazouros. It's actually he who is now speaking to you. Okay, beginning with Emre. Emre came to Leiden from Turkey, where he graduated from Koç University with a double major in law and psychology. He has a keen interest in business law and has worked as an associate in a leading law firm in Istanbul, specializing in corporate, commercial, and contract law. He also has experience in cross-border transactions and international arbitration. In his thesis, he examined the safeguard mechanisms for minority shareholders in cross-border mergers, comparing the legal frameworks of the EU and his home country, Turkey. He analyzed the recent developments in EU law, such as Directive 2019/2121 on cross-border mobility, and proposed a potential framework for adoption in Turkish legislation, derived from a doctrinal and comparative research method. He demonstrated a thorough understanding of the relevant issues and challenges, as well as a critical and creative approach to finding solutions. I congratulate him on his excellent work and wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Thank you. Next is Oya. Oya, a cum laude graduate at Istanbul University's law faculty, has been honing her expertise at the distinguished Istanbul-based law firm, specializing in corporate, commercial, and contract law. She has also gained in-house experience at the Netherlands-based fintech company and worked as a trainee lawyer at the local law firm specializing in international and competition law. Her experiences and interests resonate seamlessly with the EIBL program's focus. She's also an active member of the International Bar Association and has taken on several officer roles in the European Regional Forum. In her thesis, she explored the impact of artificial intelligence on corporate governance, redefining directors' duties. She reviewed the use of AI in corporations and the implications for the fiduciary duty of care in Delaware and the United Kingdom, as well as recent developments in the European Union. She provided a comprehensive and insightful perspective on the current and future challenges and opportunities of AI in the corporate world and the need for specific AI legislation and regulatory frameworks. I'm impressed by her research and writing skills, and I warmly congratulate her on her graduation. Thank you, and Eugene. Thank you, congratulations again. Eugene graduated from Shantou University with a bachelor's degree in law. She has been keen on learning through practice and has participated in several internships at law firms and courts in China, where she handled various cases related to contract law, intellectual property law, and commercial dispute resolution. She also attended the Kobe University seminars on Asian law and dispute management, where she learned about international commercial dispute settlement. In her thesis, she discussed the introduction of double derivative action in China based on a comparative study of Chinese law and US law. She examined the concept and rationale of double derivative action, as well as the legal obstacles and challenges for its implementation in China. She also analyzed the relevant cases and doctrines in the US and suggested some possible reforms and improvements for the Chinese legal system. She showed a clear and logical structure, a solid and extensive research, and a balanced and persuasive argument. I commend her for her remarkable work and wish her every success in her future career. Thank you very much, and now Zhao. Zhao completed her bachelor's degree in law at China Foreign Affairs University, where she maintained a high academic performance and participated in various extracurricular activities. She was a member of the Debate Society and took part in the National Model United Nations States held in New York. She also served as a leader in the National College Students Innovation Program, where she conducted research on the legal value of the Yellow River Basin. She has a strong interest in international law and environmental law and has volunteered in several public welfare activities. In her thesis, she investigated the legal issues of cross-border water resources management in the context of the Belt and Road Initiative. She focused on the case study of the Lancang-Mekong River Basin and evaluated the existing legal frameworks and mechanisms for cooperation and dispute resolution among the riparian states. She also proposed some recommendations and suggestions for enhancing the legal protection and sustainable development of the transboundary water resources. She demonstrated a high level of analytical and critical thinking, as well as a profound knowledge of the relevant legal sources and principles. I congratulate her for her superb work and wish her all the best in her future endeavors. Thank you very much and congratulations. I'm now asking the students who have been supervised by Professor Freya Bartens to come forward. And this is Karen, Chunyue, Xinyi, Dan, Yi, and Jiwei is online. Professor Bartens is in Australia at the moment. That's rather far away. So for that reason, she's unable to be present, and she has said the following speeches. To begin with, Karen. After graduating from Far Eastern University in Manila, Karen joined the Philippine Bar to cultivate her passion for business and corporate law. Through her work with multinational companies, she was exposed to various practice areas such as data privacy, international commercial and investment laws, and mediation and arbitration. As a result, it was no surprise that she decided to write her Leiden thesis on the topic of digital trade finance and data governance in the EU and ASEAN. This involved the critical examination of the regulatory and cultural factors impacting data privacy in the two systems, on their influence on cross-border trade within the realm of digital trade. Karen found that the EU's General Data Protection Regulation is a comprehensive and uniformly applicable framework ensuring high standards of privacy and security across all member states and beyond. In contrast, ASEAN's approach is more fragmented, with individual member states implementing their own regulations aligned with the ASEAN framework. Karen found that this regulatory inconsistency creates barriers to efficient and secure digital trade finance. With respect to enforcement, Karen puts forward a convincing argument that ASEAN would benefit from adopting binding legal provisions and establishing a regional oversight body similar to the EU's arrangements. I would like to congratulate Karen on an excellent thesis and wish her all the very best for her future career. Turning then to Chunyue, or Derek, as he is known in our class. Derek graduated from National Zhengzhi University in Taipei, then worked on as an associate attorney at the law firm before combining LLM studies with working as a judge assistant of the criminal division at the Supreme Court. Very admirable combination. For his Leiden thesis, he chose to write on the Investor-State Dispute Settlement Mechanism, ISDS. He identified the various criticisms faced by traditional ISDS, including high costs, disrespect for regulatory rights, lack of transparency, impartiality, and independence, lack of consistency and impracticability, and the absence of an appellate system to correct errors. Against that background, Derek examined and compared the reform approaches that the two systems have undertaken to address such concerns, namely, on the one hand, the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, and the EU's Investment Court System, ICS. He concludes that the latter's more detailed provisions appear to be better at reducing tensions and arbitration costs and respecting states' regulatory rights, that it also better incorporates the UNCITRAL transparency rules. Derek argues that the many creative features of the ICS system may serve as a model for future treaty amendments to the CPTPP. He also makes a number of further useful suggestions. I would like to congratulate Derek on an excellent thesis and wish him all the very best for his future career. We're now turning to Xinyi, Christine. Yes. She came to us from China, where she obtained an LLB from East China University of Political Science and Law in Shanghai, where she won several merit-based scholarships and the Outstanding Graduate Award. For her Leiden thesis, she looked into the issue of balancing environmental protection and foreign investment protection through investor-state dispute settlement. Practice shows that conflicts may arise when host states implement environmental regulations that affect foreign investments. For example, in the Chemtura case, restrictions on hazardous substances led to investor claims under expropriation and fair and equitable treatment standards for compensation due to reduced investment value. The interpretation of whether environmental regulations constitute compensable expropriation or are merely non-compensable measures varies among investment tribunals, leading to significant ambiguity. To address these issues, Xenia proposed that the host state should design IIES with clearer definitions of expropriation and FET standards. By explicitly outlining these standards in the treaty's preamble, substantive provisions and exceptions, greater consistency and predictability can be achieved. This would help investment tribunals. By enhancing clarity in treaty design, the goal is to create a more balanced and equitable framework, ultimately improving predictability of investment disputes involving environmental regulations. It was a pleasure for me to supervise her, and I would be delighted to stay in touch and learn about her future endeavors. Congratulations. Returning to Dan Liu, please. Dan joined us from China, where he completed his legal studies at Nankai University, focusing on environmental law. He also worked as an intern for the criminal division of a domestic court and a law firm assisted in the litigation of commercial disputes. His Leiden thesis examines how the law of the World Trade Organization, and in particular the subsidies and countervailing measures agreements, applies to Chinese state-owned enterprises, notably in the electric vehicle industry. It's a topic, says Professor Bartens, that interests me greatly, but I never had the pleasure of supervising an LLM thesis on it. First, Dan examined the different roles of SOE, state-owned enterprises, in trade. He looked at the definitions, constituent elements. He looked into the effect of subsidies, both upstreams and downstream, in the supply chain. He then analyzed on a general level typical subsidies and their compatibility with WTO law. And thereafter, the thesis turns to a specific case study, namely the subsidies applied on the electric vehicle industry. The thesis provides a careful analysis on which measures are legal or may fall foul of WTO law. I would like to congratulate Dan on an excellent thesis, the best one I had the pleasure of supervising this year, and wish him all the very best for his future career. And this brings us to Yi, please. Yi, or Agnes, combined her Leiden studies with her pursuit of an LLM from her Southwest University of Political Science and Law in Chongqing, where she will finish next year. So you worked twice, in a way. Currently, she receives government funding to conduct legal research on the approach to assist China to join the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, mainly focusing on cross-border data transfers in financial services and international trade agreements. As a result, she wrote a thesis on the north-south divide in cross-border data flows. She examined the divergent approaches between the global north and the global south, focusing on 4 key players: the United States, the EU, China, and India. She explored the challenges in reaching a consensus within international trade agreements, particularly in the context of the WTO's Joint Statement Initiative on e-commerce. Since the WTO encourages more member states to join its discussion on electronic commerce, including cross-border data flows, Yi suggested rebuilding the exception model with the so-called self-judging clauses. After considering Nigeria's proposal and the RCEP's approach, she suggested granting states more discretion when applying cross-border data flow provisions while setting higher and stricter review criteria. It was a pleasure for me to supervise her, and I would be delighted to stay in touch and learn about her future endeavors. Congratulations. And last in this group, we address Ziwei Wang, who is online following the ceremony. She also joined us from China, where she obtained her LLB at Anshui Normal University, where she won several merit-based scholarships and the Outstanding Graduate Award. Currently, she works for a technology company as a legal affairs specialist. In her thesis, she analyzes the screening and collaboration mechanisms in the EU's response to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Although this initiative has sparked worries in Europe about foreign direct investment in the context of transparency and national security, it has also strengthened economic ties and included collaboration in a variety of fields, including labor and environmental protection. She then analyzed the EU's evolving views on Chinese FDI. She explored diplomatic and economic ties, assessed the effectiveness of the 16+1 cooperation framework, examined the case of Chinese companies investigating in the management of ports in Greece, as well as the background on the objectives of the China-EU Comprehensive Agreement on Investment and its corresponding strategies. In sum, a very ambitious and quite comprehensive thesis, plus the prospects for future EU-China cooperation, fresh ideas on potential approaches, and recommendations for improved investment cooperation. Congratulations, it was a pleasure for me to supervise her, and I would be delighted to stay in touch and learn about her future endeavors. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you realize this is going to take a while, but we find it important to dedicate a moment to each one of our students and their hard work in the past weeks and months for their thesis. So the next group of students is the ones that I supervise. This will be Konstantin, Yue, and Boyang. Please do come up. And Boyang is online. So I begin with Konstantin. Konstantin, you did your previous law studies in Vienna, Austria, and your thesis provides an EU law analysis of something that affects yourself against the background of Austrian law. In Austria, a certain financial benefit in view of education depends on the legal status of child, for which there is an age limit of 27 years. For men who have to do military service or civil service, their education will take longer than for others, with the result that there may be a period of study when they no longer receive the benefit. You analyzed meticulously the Austrian law, its effect, and whether it can be argued that it infringes EU discrimination law with respect to nationality and sex, notably. In doing so, you dive deeply into all the intricacies involved, looking at the case from different angles. Excellent academic work indeed. Now, your plan is to use this research for bringing a court case in Austria. Allow me to suggest that before court, you should change your strategy away from intricate academic points towards more simple arguments that a court can understand. They're not quite on your level. Now, Konstantin, you have written an exceptional thesis. I think one of the very, very best I ever have had the pleasure of supervising. And you are also the very best student of this year, graduating summa cum laude. Because of the fervent clapping, you may have missed it. He graduates summa cum laude, not just magna. That's even a higher level. Warmest congratulations. Well, we rarely see that happen, I have to say, very, very rarely. Oh, he's even the first, I'm told, the very first who reaches that since it was introduced. Yeah, for our program. So, warmest congratulations and best wishes for your future, including your court case. Good to see you. Thank you. Yeah. Before coming to Leiden, you graduated in China in the field of international economic law and then worked for a number of years in legal practice. At the beginning of the thesis process, you told me that you are interested in the topic of posted workers. This refers to workers whom a company brings with it when it performs a service in another country. Under EU law, there is specific legislation about the position of posted workers in that host state, the other state. But what if problems do not arise in the host state, but rather in the home state? Legislation that disadvantages the posted workers. At the Court of Justice, a case is pending at this very moment about favorable tax treatment for workers who do not go abroad for posting, to the disadvantage of those who do. The court has yet to decide, but we do have the opinion of the Advocate General suggesting a rather surprising and totally novel approach to the court. In your thesis, you're asking whether the approach suggested by the Advocate General is legally convincing. In the beginning, you had a bit to feel your way. It was complicated, wasn't it? But as you went along, you became more familiar with the issues, and in the end, you have presented very credible work on a complex issue. Congratulations on graduating from our program and best wishes for the future. Thank you. And now I'm addressing Boyang, who is following us online. Boyang, legal commercial issues found your interest long before you came to Leiden, for example, in a moot arbitration competition in which you participated during your previous studies in China. For your thesis, you had a rather clear idea from the beginning of the process, namely the protection of labor rights through free trade agreements concluded by the EU with non-member states. The title of your thesis is Improving Effectiveness of Labor Standards in EU FTAs Can, Including Corporate Obligations, Help? I remember that when you first contacted me, you expressed the hope that all would go smoothly. And smoothly, it certainly went. You worked diligently, in a structured manner, on a good academic level from the beginning, though at some point time was a bit of a challenge, similar to, I think, the majority of the class. The final product shows how you carefully build an argument in favor of corporate obligations in view of labor standards. The result is very good work. Well done. Congratulations on graduating from the EIBL program and best wishes for the future. So now we're going to hear a different voice again, which is good. We turn to the students who have been supervised by Dr. Daniel Mandrescu, and those would be Shihan, Maria, Nas, Yu, Fatma, Yair, and Yangjing. Could I ask all of you to come forward? Then you will be addressed one by one. Beginning with Sihan.
All right. So, welcome everyone. And before I start addressing all of you in person, I want to first congratulate you as a group for making it so far. I would call you my little, let's say, competition law mafia. And for those present, you don't have to worry. I know there are many students here. It won't become a competition lecture. I know by now it's an acquired taste. So I'll keep it brief. Now, I see here I will start with Sihan. Sihan, over the years, I've learned as a supervisor that the topic that students choose says something about them. In your case, that's no different. I would say the topic you've chose showcases a great deal of kindness and a great concern for major societal problems. Your work on pay-for-delay agreements in the health sector and their potential spillover into the digital sector tackle perhaps the biggest two challenges we have in society today. Access to affordable medicines, which would be hampered by these types of agreements, and the promotion of useful innovation, which in turn could also be hampered by a similar strategy in the digital sector. By tackling these topics, you have not only shown your interest in the bigger picture, but you've also shown something else, which I am very fond about, competition law. And I'm happy you picked that up. And that is that it is not only about serving businesses or going against businesses. It's about sometimes simply making sure that society's best interest is upheld. And I think your thesis is a great showcase of that effort. And I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Next is Maria, I believe.
Maria? Maria, over this year I've come to know you as a very kind, ambitious, and above all, very curious student who's always in search of new things to learn, to understand, and bring things together. And this approach has served you very well when writing your thesis, which was on privacy policy tying, combining no less than 4 different corners of the law: competition law, the DMA, the GDPR, and even the Nebis and Idem principle, which is a rather strange beast for a competition lawyer. It often required you to take steps that have never been taken before, use your legal creativity, and also be open to feedback, to brainstorming, in order to keep improving your work. I think this is a formidable attitude to what will follow, where you'll have to pick up new skills and take on new challenges. And I'm confident that what you've learned here, you will apply very well in practice. And I do hope that that practice will be competition law, because I think you have a lot to contribute to this field. Congratulations.
Thank you. Next is Naz.
Nice. During the supervision of your thesis, you've shown a great deal of ambition, dedication, hard work, and most of all, attention to detail and structure. As a supervisor and the one also responsible for tormenting all of the students here with the thesis, supervision, and workshops, I am the one typically expected to bring structure into the work of students. But after working with you, I realize how chaotic my own work is, and perhaps there are quite a few lessons for the supervisors to learn from his students. This approach was great because the topic you've chosen was extremely detailed and technical. You chose to look at standard essential patents, where you assess the power imbalance between those who set the standards and those who must implement them, which is known for its technical nature. You've succeeded in mastering this topic and have written an excellent thesis. I look forward to see what the future brings on next, and I hope you'll stay in touch. Congratulations.
You want a picture, don't you? Thank you. Next is you, please.
There you. When you approached me in search of a topic in the field of competition law and the digital economy, the aim was clear. You wanted to have an original topic that was of importance, but has not been yet explored, something which most students tend to shy from. This brought you to the choice of looking into data-related remedies in merger control and the parallel enforcement of the GDPR. And while many people in this room may scratch their heads, and also outside of this room wondering how that would even work, you have mastered this topic and have produced what I can honestly say is most likely the first of its kind on this field. It's been an excellent thesis to read, and you have been an excellent student to supervise. This makes the fact that you graduate today cum laude even all the more deserved. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Next is Fatma.
Dear Fatma, throughout the year, you've shown what I would call an unbeatable and inspiring attitude to hard work. When searching for a topic, you explicitly told me you are searching for a challenge, not for comfort. You are searching for the unknown rather than for the familiar. You were always open to receiving and implementing feedback and never flinched when I was perhaps a bit harsh. You are the definition of what I would call a skilled professional lawyer. In the end, you prevailed by writing an impressive thesis on the risk posed by artificial intelligence, on the facilitation of collusion, and the potential roles for AI regulation for tackling such practices. That's a mouthful and a very complex topic. And today, as I expected, you graduate cum laude. It has been an impressive journey and a telling one as well. You have already made your first step in practice in the Netherlands, and I expect many more to come. Congratulations.
Thank you. Now we ask Jair to come forward.
Jair. Throughout the year, you've shown a great sense of humor and a remarkable interest in complex and commercial and societal problems. You always had also an original perspective on them. In this respect, I can say you stay true to the meaning of your name. For those who are present in this room and do not know it, the name Jair actually means the one who will shed light upon things and bring joy. And this is in a way very suitable also for your thesis topic, because you've chosen a topic, namely the application of Article 101 to merger control, which has been buried for the past decades, treated as if to never exist, and only revived recently in France, opening the door to far more complexities than one would imagine. You have approached this topic meticulously, crafting plan after plan on how to tackle it, to the point you had more plans, I think, than words on paper. But you have done so skillfully, and I am sure that the knowledge you've gained here will serve you well in your beloved Paris. Congratulations, and best of luck.
Thank you. You may take your places. The last student is online to be addressed by
Online means
Daniel.
there.
Yes, I believe in this direction.
Different microphones. Kian Ying, your keen interest in the digital economy has pushed you to look into the very complex topic of self-preferencing, specifically in the case of access to data generated on dual-role platforms. As a topic, personally, I love it. For students, I always tell them to avoid it altogether because there's simply not enough time in the year to grasp it properly. In your case, I let it slide. And the reason for it was that your motivation behind it was unique. You didn't want to do it just purely based on your own interest or from an academic perspective, but you have the ambition to become an online entrepreneur yourself. I figured it's only fair that you know what you will be facing in the future when dealing with these actors and have the tools to do it. Congratulations on this great work you've accomplished. I look forward to hearing how the future plans unfold.
Thank you very much. We turn to the group of students whose work was supervised by Mr. Daniel Dosa, who sends his apologies. Veronica will read the speeches, and we ask the following students to come forward: Guanche, Gigi, Yeye, Fei, and Xiaoa. Beginning with Guanche.
Guanche, I will read what Daniel Dosa has sent to me. Guanche wrote her thesis about the legality under the law of the World Trade Organization and the EU Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, the CBAM. This is an EU mechanism that is meant to reduce global greenhouse emissions by making importers of carbon-intensive goods into the EU pay certain compensation, an adjustment that producers of similar goods within the EU would pay. It is a very current and interesting topic, and she made a great job in analyzing both the EU and WTO law aspects of the CBAM. Congratulations and good luck to your next step in life.
Picture. Thank you. And now, Gigi, please.
Kiki wrote a really excellent thesis about the novel data protection issues raised by Chinese manufactured smart vehicles sold and or operating in the EU. She provided a practical overview of the applicable legislation and jurisprudence both in the EU and China, and suggested a number of ways in which Chinese automotive manufacturers may seek to comply with EU rules. Heartfelt congratulations on finishing your studies at Leiden University, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Gigi. Now, Z is the next one.
Z examined in her thesis the general impact of international trade regulations on the legal systems of the EU and China. Z did a great job in providing an overview of this broad topic and will hopefully have the chance to put her legal knowledge to the test in the next step of her career. Congratulations and the very best of luck after graduation.
Thank you. We now turn to Fei.
Fei wrote her thesis about safeguarding fair competition in the new era of tech giants and data monopolies. In doing so, she did a remarkable survey of the latest developments in Chinese and European competition and data protection law. Algorithmic technology, the nowcasting radar system, and acquire, copy, or kill strategies were among the latest developments discussed. Congratulations on a well-written thesis and the successful completion of your studies at Leiden. The very best of luck.
Thank you. Antje, please.
Shihao's thesis compares the EU GDPR regime to Chinese data protection regulations and makes interesting conclusions concerning the potential development of the two quite different regimes. It is a remarkable effort given the breadth and depth of the topic. Congratulations on this achievement and good luck for your journey after graduating at Leiden University.
Thank you. We're turning to a group of students whose work has been supervised by Mr. Jacques Bieglinger, and I ask the following students to come up: Divya, Christos, Venya, and Shashwat. Divya.
Dear Divya, congratulations and high recognition on your well-deserved graduation. Your master thesis on the fundamental rights aspects of the enforcement of non-material damages under the General Data Protection Regulation, you have developed a highly demanding analysis in the challenging intersection of many things, namely digital law and human rights, while also skillfully linking the complexity of codified law at various levels with the consideration of case law. And on top, you looked at it from the lawyerly perspective of enforcement. Initially, you approached the topic somewhat cautiously, but over time, you gained confidence and tackled the complex issues with increasing force and determination. It was a great pleasure to work with you in developing this exciting topic. I learned a lot myself. And to witness your growth throughout the process. Your perseverance and dedication have truly paid off. It was one of the best master theses I've seen in this program.
And a cum laude graduate also.
I warmly congratulate you on this remarkable achievement and wish you continued success and all the best for your future.
Thank you. Christos, may we ask you to come up? Christos.
Dear Christos, congratulations first on earning your degree. In your master thesis on intellectual property aspects of generative artificial intelligence, you tackled a challenging new topic where academic solutions are still in development. Initially, you faced, it seems, some difficulties with the demands of academic writing and citation coming more from the practical world, I understand. Additionally, it wasn't easy to connect the well-established legal doctrines of intellectual property with the latest insights in digital regulation. It took some time for you to fully immerse yourself in this complex subject, but over time and just in time, you made significant progress. Your ability to address difficult questions in a structured and well-founded manner has steadily improved and in the end was very nicely reflected in your thesis. I wish you all the best and much success in your professional future.
Thank you. We turn to Venya. Please, now it's your turn.
Dear Venya, also congratulations on your successful graduation. In your master's thesis, you developed a demanding analysis of the legal impact of digital opportunities and the protection of fundamental rights on the modern working world, with a particular focus on remote work. It was undoubtedly challenging to find and integrate the many relevant sources, both on European level and above, but you increasingly engaged with the topic and ultimately delivered a very well-crafted piece of work. It was a pleasure to accompany your persistent efforts and to see how you progressively deepened your understanding of European legal concepts. I warmly congratulate you and wish you all the best and much success for your future.
Thank you. And Shashwat, please. Fighting a bit with his shawl.
Yes, dear Shashwat. Congratulations on successfully completing your diploma. With your analysis of EU cyber finance regulations and on the new MiCAR, the Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation, you tackled a new and demanding topic which initially presented challenges not only in terms of content but also in meeting the formal requirements. At first, you found it apparently difficult to adapt to the demands of academic writing and proper citation. But it was always remarkable how you knew what you were talking about. So it was more content about form. However, through your consistent effort and willingness to learn, you have made remarkable progress. Your ability to write with precision and structure have significantly improved over time, and this is clearly reflected in the quality of your work. Your persistence and dedication were admirable. I warmly congratulate you on this achievement and wish you all the best for your future.
Thank you. Our next group of students is relatively large. All of them have been supervised by Professor Stefan van der Boogaard. I asked to come forward Irakli, Cenk Eylül, Derya, Seray, Fatih, and Lucia Beatrice.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to everybody, but of course, especially to Irakli at the moment. Dear Irakli, I have supervised 8 theses this year in the Advanced LLM and several more in the regular LLM program. And honestly, they were all good, but yours was in a league of its own. Easily the best this year. And if I may say so, one of the best I have read in quite a while, and I read many theses. Your thesis deals with the Gordian knot that stood for a long time in the way of an amicable withdrawal of the UK from the Union after the Brexit referendum. Namely, of course, the Northern Ireland Protocol and the subsequent attempt to overcome remaining difficulties in practice with the Windsor framework. After class, I hope you all still remember that the weak link, or the weakest link in the Brexit arrangement, is the fact that the border on the Irish island remains open, whereas it is now actually an external border, an outer border of the Union. This has, of course, important repercussions for trade in goods. The way You have charted all remaining issues, problems, and difficulties, Irakli, and analyzed the solutions put forward in enormous detail, and if I may say, with sharpness and nuance as well, is nothing short of impressive and excellent. My most sincere compliments are in order here. The 9 I gave you is fully deserved. I generally reserve 10 for God, but he has never written a thesis under my supervision yet. I also clearly remember you sitting in the back of the class, always straight upright, with a nicely trimmed beard, and always with a gentle smile on your face and a sparkle in your eyes. If I'm not mistaken, you currently work at the Constitutional Court or Supreme Court, apologies, at the Supreme Court in Georgia. I can actually easily picture you sitting on the bench of that court one day. hopefully still with the same smile and sparkle. All the best, Irakli.
Thank you. Cenk, yes.
Dear Cenk, you have written a thesis on one of the most interesting and important pieces of secondary EU legislation of the last years, the Foreign Subsidies Regulation, nicely framing it in the EU's broader external policy in an increasingly hostile international economic environment, as you also termed it yourself in your thesis. There are several things that stand out in this thesis for me. Your beautiful writing style, the broader legal, political, and historical setting, including the FDI regulation and the law of the WTO, but also you paying attention to issues of EU state aid law and M&A. And also the balanced attention to the strengths and weaknesses of this new legal instrument. Another excellent thesis for which I gave a very high grade. Cenk, you have the special gift or skill of being able to put your thoughts on paper in a beautiful, clear, and structured way. And for a lawyer, this is, of course, extremely important. This will undoubtedly be of invaluable use to you in your professional life. Treasure this skill, and best of luck to you as well.
Thank you. Next is Eylül. Please.
Dear Eylül, Cenk was not the only one who wrote about the Foreign Subsidies Regulation. In your thesis, you explored the framework, the background, the aims, and the content of this new regulation, focusing specifically on the question whether the European legislator has managed to strike or not a nice balance between providing effective protection and avoiding administrative overburden. You conclude that the optimal balance has not been found yet, and you recommend to reduce data requirements, which currently pose significant compliance challenges for businesses, as well as to enhance regulatory clarity to do away with potential inconsistencies and regulatory gaps that impact on the effectiveness of this regulation. My recommendation to the policymakers would be to read your thesis, because these recommendations are clear, convincing, and forceful. Very well done, thus. It was a true pleasure for me to have you in class and to supervise your thesis. You are very smart, gentle, and genuine, and I can easily imagine that people will like to work with you in the future. I hope life will treat you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Derja. Next is Derja.
Hello, Derja. Dear Derja, your thesis focuses on the collision between fundamental rights and fundamental freedoms, and more specifically on how the right to strike can be reconciled with the freedom to conduct a business within the EU. This has been a crucial question that many lawyers have been thinking about, breaking their brains about for many years. The court has issued a number of high-profile judgments on this in the recent past, which you have all carefully revisited, and you have also reviewed recent failed attempts at regulation at EU level, such as the Monti II regulation. Your suggestion to adopt a minimum harmonization approach to achieve reconciliation between these economic and social goals in view of the strengthening of the social dimension of the EU is both nuanced and forceful, and I liked it very much. You have written another very good thesis on an important and sensitive topic, Derja, adding, what I appreciated very much, your own fresh perspective to the debate. And I'm glad you gave you a very well-deserved 8 for it, which is a great mark. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and I'm actually convinced that you will do very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Seray.
Hello, Seray. Dear Seray, you have written a thesis on gambling. As we all know, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry nowadays, which, of course, inevitably increases the need for appropriate regulation. You have taken a very interesting comparative and multidisciplinary approach, examining more specifically whether, and if so, which lessons could be drawn in Europe from the US experience with gambling, especially in states such as Nevada and Florida, paying in particular attention to criminal law with the aim to combat money laundering. Your findings are both interesting and viable, not focusing for once, and this is very good, I think, on mutual recognition or increased harmonization, the well-trodden paths, but rather on better administrative cooperation. You have clearly put great effort in this work, and I admire specifically also how you managed to pull this off under often difficult and straining personal circumstances. I wish you all the best for the future, and I hope you will manage to soon overcome this difficult period. All the best.
Thank you. Next is Fatih.
Dear Fatih, in your thesis, you analyzed the question whether alternative football competitions can break through after the famous European Super League ruling of the Court of Justice of the European Union of last December. This is, of course, a question everyone, or at least every sports fan, would like to know the answer to. With this thesis, you have clearly been bringing coals to Newcastle, as the English proverb goes, or literally translated, what the heart is full of, the mouth overflows with. Being an avid sports fan myself, I fully understand that you absolutely wanted to write about this major legal development in the field of sports. You've really delved into the complex relationship between sports and EU law. And in many ways, the thesis mirrors how you behaved in class. Hardworking, well-prepared, smart, curious, and friendly. You delivered a nice thesis. I also really enjoyed discussing the topic with you, exchanging perspectives legally and on the evolution of the European Championship. I hope you will keep the curiosity you showed in the topic. I find that an important feature of a good lawyer. My very best wishes for the future, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And Lucia Beatrice.
Dear, I always called you Beatrice, so I'll do that now as well. Dear Beatrice, your thesis is entitled Capturing the Legal Implications of the EMU on the Economic Resilience of the Member States. And it tries to assess the effectiveness of the legal framework and at the same time also outlining its challenges and the implications of its enforcement mechanism. In other words, you undertook nothing less but a Herculean task. You did this because you at all costs wanted to write about EMU, even if you didn't precisely know what to focus on or where to begin in the beginning. Inevitably, of course, because you wanted to do so much, the thesis lacks a bit in depth here and there, but I'm nevertheless impressed about your ability to learn so much about such a complex issue that has wrecked the brains of so many politicians and policymakers during the financial crisis years in such a short time, and to write so fluently about it. So my takeaway for next time would be, if you choose a little faster about what you precisely want to do and pick a topic that is more delineated, everything will be perfect. Having said this, very well done in any event. Best wishes to you too, and thank you very much.
Trade and human rights nexus circulating in China on the one hand and in Europe on the other hand. Do continue to explore the law from different perspectives and do continue to contribute to building bridges where views appear less easy to reconcile. And do stay in touch, whether it's about your plans for the bar exam or moving to Tianjin. This evening, I will toast on your achievement with a nice glass of that plum liquor. Congratulations.
I'm now asking Daphne and Agnes to come forward, and they will be addressed by their supervisor, Dr. Nikos Lavranos. I think beginning with Daphne, correct?
Well, Daphne, here we are. First and foremost, I would like to commend you for choosing such a novel topic for your master thesis. In your thesis, you bring together two very abstract topics. On the one hand, digital tokens, which are typically used to create cryptocurrencies, and on the other hand, the reduction of CO2 emissions, more specifically, the correct measurement of such reductions. Both topics are very novel and I'm sure all of you don't know what I'm talking about, and especially for law, because there's practically no case law and very little legislation. Nonetheless, you embarked on the mission to examine whether, and if so, how digital tokens can be used in the trading of CO2 emission certificates in such a way that they can be trusted. The idea is that available number of CO2 certificates is consistently reduced so that companies are forced to reduce the CO2 emissions or buy additional ones for higher prices. Digital tokens, which are unique and difficult to fake, are ideal for both companies and governments to measure the reduction of CO2 emissions. All this sounds very complicated, and we had very difficult discussions to really kind of nail down the topic, and you wrote a very, very solid thesis, which hopefully provides a good basis to develop this area further. In any event, I learned a lot, and that doesn't happen very much as a supervisor, to learn something from a master thesis. And I hope you enjoyed our cooperation, and I wish you all the very best for the future. Well done.
Thank you. And Agnes.
Well, Agnes, you looked at the Energy Charter Treaty, and that is a dangerous game, especially if you do that with me, because the Energy Charter Treaty, as some of you know, is something that I've been following and writing about hugely. So endeavoring on writing a thesis on this with me is already very challenging. And this treaty recently was so-called modernized in order to reflect climate change, in particular regarding investments in fossil fuels, such as oil and gas. Although the new treaty was agreed by the EU and the member states, it was recently rejected by those as not being green enough. And you concluded, like I did, that was the good thing, that actually the new text was pretty good, and that there was no good reason for the EU and the member states not to sign it. You also showed that the same member states signed long-term gas contracts with Qatar that go even beyond 2050, when we are supposed to be net zero. So something is clearly wrong. And finally, you also examined the recent cases brought by NGOs before Dutch and French courts and the European Court of Human Rights. So you really worked on a topic with very complex legal metrics, which on top of that is highly politicized, as we know. I really liked how you changed your views the more you analyzed the topic, and how nuanced your analysis was at the end, which I may say wasn't at the beginning. And which shows, and I think that's really a lesson for everybody here, that in real life, especially also in law, nothing is simply black and white. So I hope you enjoyed the process of writing this thesis, and that you maintain an open and nuanced mind, and I wish you all the very best for the future. Well done.
Congratulations, thank you. Our next student is online. This is Xiao Ma, and he will be addressed by Assistant Professor Vestert Borgert. This way, I understand.
Dear Xiao, today marks the formal end of your studies here in Leiden, and there's a lot for you to be proud of. When we discussed your thesis at our first meeting in December, I immediately noticed that you were not just eager to learn more about European law, but to explore the very foundations of the European Union. And this you managed to do with a thesis in which you examine whether and to what extent the Court of Justice adheres to the principle of conferral and the division of competences between the Union and the Member States when interpreting the scope of the internal market provision in Article 114 of the Functioning Treaty. Throughout the writing process, you showed not only great legal skill, but also perseverance and grit. Above all, I have come to know you as a pleasant and kind person. I'm confident that these qualities will help you succeed in the next steps of your professional career. Congratulations.
Congratulations on your big achievement today. It was truly a pleasure for me to work with you, to know you. And even though we work together from distance, because I was not based in Leiden during this semester, I may say that we may be more connected than one would think. Some years ago, I was standing in this very room wearing a bright yellow dress, very similar to yours. And it's not just the bright color, but also your bright and kind personality that really stands out in your work. But about your thesis, you wrote a thesis on a very challenging topic, discussing the challenges and strategies for cross-border personal data transfers, and you offered there a comparative study from the perspective of compliance for multinational corporations between the European Union and Chinese companies. A big challenge, but you've done it in a very meticulous manner, always listening to my advice, and I think that's something that you should be remembering for the future. Working very well to the deadlines and always submitting the work on time, which is not a usual practice. So all this resulted also in a very, very good grade that you deserve for this thesis. And I want to once again congratulate you on this and wish you all the very best in all your future steps.
Thank you. Can I ask Zhenki to come up? Zhenki, you? Yes, that's you. The only one who still doesn't hold a diploma. And you are being addressed by your supervisor, Mr. David van Wamel. Please.
Dear Jesse, you came to me with a proposal that showed that you are not only interested, or your interests are not only confined to the law, but they extend to the field of economics. You capitalized on these interests, writing your thesis as you thoroughly explained the economic phenomenon of network effects in digital markets, and also its importance for EU merger control. Based on an in-depth study of various condensed and lengthy Commission decisions, you analyzed how the Commission examines network effects and how these impact the appreciation of mergers in the digital sector. With your thesis, you admirably exhibited what a good lawyer, I think, should have. A broad understanding not only of the law, but also of the environment in which the law operates. I'd like to congratulate you on your excellent achievement, and I would like to wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you. So let's just make sure all of you got your diplomas. Everyone who expects to graduate has been recognized. Very good. This is the moment where we want to briefly recognize once again the person who wrote the best thesis in our program. That is Konstantin Kladivko. And as he is also the overall best student, he will be the one called upon to address us briefly from the perspective of the student. Sheena will have a microphone for you over there, but first for your best thesis.
Good afternoon, all. Dear professors, teachers, staff, family, friends, and colleagues. It's a great honor to speak today on behalf of our class. Before we start, however, I wanted to ask, is there anyone in the room who is still waiting for their thesis grade? If so, I believe now is a good moment to raise your hand. Anyone? No, great. See, we get things done here at Leiden University. Last week, when Sheena sent me an email informing me that I'm going to be the class valedictorian, I had no idea what that even meant. Valedictorian. Now I know, thanks to Wikipedia. I guess you'll never stop learning. After I understood what that term meant, I made a mistake and continued to read Sheena's email, and it said, you are required to give a speech, and you need to prepare for this. Damn. Why must good things always come with a catch? So for a brief moment, I wanted to decline. I already saw myself writing a way too direct, passive-aggressive Dutch-style email, something along the lines like, oh nay, I don't think that yet another boring speech is needed in that ceremony. But then I gave it a second thought, because I've written enough. We all have written enough. But then I gave it a second thought, and I was like, why not? Because after all, there is no plagiarism check on this one. So, hello ChatGPT. As I stand here today, I can't help but think back to the first day we all arrived in Leiden, eager, nervous, and perhaps a little bit unsure of what lay ahead. We were strangers then, but quickly became more than friends. We became family. Together we navigated the intricate labyrinth of European and international business law, a journey filled with countless case studies, late-night study sessions, and more cups of coffee than we would care to admit. Impressive, right? But unfortunately, I don't have the audacity or the courage to use AI for my work, so you will have to listen to my words and not the perfectly well-formulated speech of a machine. Let's start again. 1 year, wow, what a rush. I can't help but think back to the first day when we all arrived to Leiden. I cannot speak for you, but honestly, I was not eager to learn. I wanted to have another month of vacation, but it didn't help. Soon, the first lecture started. It rained more frequently. The first papers were written. It rained even more. Exams were taken and grades announced. And soon this was our life. Lecture, rain, paper, rain, exam, rain, 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 winter break, and again. But then when the lectures and exams got even more, the rain got less. The more time we spent inside studying, the better the weather got outside. And then came a time with no more exams, no more thesis writing, and very little rain. They call it summer. And then we waited. We waited for our thesis grades, very long, too long, a little bit longer, and we would only have known whether or not we graduated after the ceremony. Not ideal, but now we do, and that is great. So today is a day to be proud. Proud of what we have learned, and proud of what we have accomplished. However, there are few people in the room we should be especially proud of. Because we, the students, the parents, and the teachers, often overly focus on grades and percentage points, because that number between 0 and 10 is the only tool to measure success and failure, we believe. However, it's not. We tend to forget that getting good grades is often harder for some than for others. And I'm talking about I'm talking about all of our colleagues who could not only focus on studying, but had to work besides their studies. Some of us even worked full-time, while we others only had to attend a few lectures per week. They often could not attend class because they had to go to work, to Amsterdam or The Hague or elsewhere. And as someone who has worked during most of his studies, I know how tough that double burden can be. And I know how tough it can be when others get good grades with these, while oneself was struggling to pass. Not because the others were smarter, because they did not have to work. Therefore, we should be particularly proud of those of us who worked besides their studies. Well done. We should also be particularly proud of those of us who come from faraway cities, countries, and continents. It takes special courage to leave your family and loved ones behind to study, not hundreds, but thousands of kilometers away from home. If I was tired of Leiden, lonely or depressed, I could simply hop on the next flight home. Vienna is only 1.5 hours away. However, most of us couldn't. You were trapped in a weird little country with bad weather, way too much rain, and what the Dutch call food. You could not even go home for New Year's. Thus, we should be especially proud of those of us who come from faraway countries and continents, because coping with the stress of studying is way more demanding emotionally and mentally if you don't have family close by. Kudos to you. Moreover, the past year was especially demanding for the lawyers and attorneys among us who already practiced law in courts and law firms for years and now had the vigor and the courage to go back to university. That is by no means easy. It's not easy to answer exam questions anyway, even if you have done that for the last couple of years. But it is even harder if you are used to solving real legal problems. Therefore, we should be proud, particularly proud of those of us who didn't come straight from university, but brought their professional experience to the classroom. Thank you for that, and a big shout out to you guys. We should also be especially proud of those of us who, despite being only in their early 20s, managed to graduate from this advanced program. Some of us were actually as young as 22, and fasten your seatbelts for this one, they were born after the year 2000. I wish I would have been where you are now at that young age. You should be very proud of yourselves. You are truly amazing. We should also acknowledge those of us who did never study law and English before, because language is the decisive tool for us lawyers. Its command is crucial. Therefore, we should be especially proud of those of us who had to improve their English skills to follow lectures and answer exam questions. If I didn't understand the judgment of the European Court of Justice, I could simply read it in my own language. The official German translation was only a mouse click away. However, if you come from outside the EU, there is no translation. You need to speak legal English. Therefore, chapeau to those of us who managed to improve their legal English skills tremendously at the same time. Furthermore, we should also be especially proud of those of us who did not find housing for weeks or even months, who had to stay with friends or in hotels, who got their bags or laptops stolen, but still did not give up. Credits to you. Lekker. We should also especially praise those of us who come from different legal systems. While Greece or France are quite similar to the Netherlands, India, the US, or China aren't. While some of us were born, raised, and educated in the EU, others had to painfully learn what the differences are between the Council of the European Union, the European Council, and the Council of Europe. And for all non-lawyers in the room, yes, this is confusing, but important. So ask your kids over dinner later. They should know by now. You are the GOAT. See? Grades are by far not the only means to measure success. I know that some of us haven't quite gotten the grades they hoped for, but that number is only a small fraction of the whole picture. We should never forget that. Finally, I'm immensely proud of all of us who graduate today, but I admire those of us who decided to stay in the Netherlands. I mean, you come from countries with great food, beautiful landscapes, and amazing weather. You come from countries where the Dutch take their kids to prove that the sun really exists, and the broodje is not a meal. And now you swap Istanbul, New Delhi, or Shanghai for Groningen, Zetogenbosch, or Gouda. Judging from afar, that doesn't look like too good of a deal to me, but I'm sure, no, I know that you will not only manage, but you will excel as you did at Leiden University. I wish you all the best in the Netherlands, but never forget from where you came. Don't forget your history and heritage, your celebrations and customs, your tales and traditions, because unlike what some hate preachers, some Donalds or Vladimirs, some Marines or Gerts want to make you believe, humankind can achieve so much more when we learn from each other. When we are proud of who we are, and when we are proud of where we came from. So keep your cultural identity and mix it with the Dutch. And to the ones of us who go home, I would like to encourage you to keep your open mind, your liberalism and courage. Don't let them get you down. Speak up for your values and ideas and encourage others to do so as well. I truly hope that you experienced that democracy, fundamental rights, and the rule of law is in fact not weakening a country, but is empowering its individuals and thereby strengthening a society as a whole. To close, I would like to thank all of our wonderful professors and teachers. You taught us why competition needs to be regulated, how the WTO works, and what fundamental freedoms can do. We learned what the Council of the European Union, European Council, and the Council of Europe are. And we learned that deadlines bind professors differently than they bind us. Thank you all for a wonderful year. Let's be proud of what we have achieved. Thank you, Leiden, for having us. Thank you well.
Thank you very much indeed, Konstantin. I must confess that having heard your speech, I'm tempted to look back at your letter that you sent us, the motivation letter, why you were so keen to come to the Netherlands in the first place. But the fact that you excelled on this particular level shows that somehow you reconciled yourself with your environment, I believe. And we do really wish you the very best for your professional career that you're going to continue in Vienna. Thank you very, very much for this very personal speech. Now we're coming to the end of the celebration, and this is really the moment that I announced at the beginning, the moment when you do get your degree, when legally something is happening. And I'm asking, therefore, the whole audience, everyone, to stand up for this special moment. So, dear students, it is now just a matter of moments before you will be EIBL graduates. The time has come for the formula with which I will confer your degrees on you legally. And this is it. By the power vested in me by the University of Leiden, I hereby, with pleasure, confer upon you the degree of Legum Magister Master of Laws, Advanced LLM. You are now entitled to use the title LLM, Master of Advanced Studies, with all the rights and privileges that pertain thereto. I add that our university attaches particular importance to the responsibility that comes with such a title, namely to work for the good of society. Thank you and warmest congratulations. You may sit again. I am. Sheena will come with practical issues to you in a moment. I will officially close the ceremony, the formal part, and then the rest is going to be celebration, right? There.
Under your seats is your graduation hats. You can now open them and put them on. Remember and take the paper off the tassel. There's white paper on the... Okay. Everybody got their hats on? In a moment, the photographer will take a group photo of you all with your hats on.
No, this, and then, no. This, and then outside, and then
As I said, the photographer will take a photo, a group photo of you all in a moment. Then you will go outside and she will take another group photo of you all outside, throwing your hats up in the air. And then we need you to go to upstairs here. So you need to come back in and go upstairs to the Zweitkammer. So we at Leiden University have many traditions, but there is one tradition in particular that concerns this really special hallowed room. And I've just told you what it is. It's the Zweitkammer, or the sweat room. Through the years, this room has had numerous purposes. For a long time, the space was a meeting room for the curators of the university. After a while, it became a storage room for the peat, which heated the ovens of the university, and therefore heat gives sweat sometimes, so a little bit of an association. The room then acquired a more distinguished use, becoming a Senate chamber for administrating exams. But in the 18th century, the room was given a new purpose, a new lease of life, as suggested by its present-day name. The room became a waiting room for students who were awaiting the results of their exams or their thesis. We all know what happens when we're nervous. Awaiting an important outcome, hence the name, the sweat room. Not very pleasant, eh? The room is no longer used for this purpose. For some years now, when students receive their Leiden diplomas, they go to the Zweitkammertje, the sweat room, to put their signature on the wall. Because of this, it's one of the most cherished spots at Leiden University amongst students or graduates. Unfortunately, we don't know who the first new graduate was that started this tradition by putting their signature on the wall, but they have been followed by some extremely famous people, such as our former Queen Beatrice and our current King Willem Alexander. And today, it's your shining moment to put your signature on the wall among theirs. So in a few minutes, we'll take you to the Zweitkammer, but first, we will have the group photo here and then go outside for another group photo, and then you need to go upstairs to the Zweitkammer. You go up the stairs, and it's the first opening on the left side from the stairs. You need to go in there and follow the corridor round to the Zweitkammer.
Okay, so will all the students stand up? Okay, first I make a serious picture. So, can you all look here in the camera? A bit squeeze, a bit in, a bit close, yeah. Okay, can you all look? Okay, and now I count till 3, and after 3, you throw the hat in the air. Yeah? So after 3.
Remember to catch it, otherwise you'll lose it and you need it outside again.
Yeah. Okay. Can you squeeze a little bit in? Yeah. A bit backwards. Yeah, in between there. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the same outside.
we're. Oh yeah. Yeah, but it's like a celebration.
Go down and take a picture. No,